I hired a stranger off the internet to pose as my boyfriend at my company gala. Just one night to silence my toxic ex and salvage what was left of my dignity. He showed up in a suit that fit too well, spoke like he owned every room he entered, and dismantled my ex with 3 sentences I'll never forget. By midnight, I knew something was off. By morning, I realized I'd been sleeping with the enemy, and by the time I found out who Noah Bennett really was, it was already too late for my career, my heart, and any illusion that I had control over my own life. If you want to see how far desperation can take someone, stay until the end. Like this video and drop a comment with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The email arrived on a Wednesday. Subject line, gala attendance confirmation required. I stared at it like it was a subpoena. My finger hovered over the delete button for a solid 10 seconds before I opened it, already knowing what it would say. The annual Harmon and Stell Corporate Gala. Black tie. Partners encouraged. RSVP by Friday. Partners encouraged. I sat back in my desk chair and laughed. The kind of laugh that comes out sharp and bitter when you're alone in your apartment at 9 p.m. with leftover pad thai and a bottle of wine you're pretending not to need. Encouraged. That was corporate speak for required unless you want to look like a lonely failure in front of 200 people. I hadn't had a partner in 8 months. Not since Daniel. Daniel, who still worked 3 floors above me. Daniel, who would absolutely be at that gala with someone new on his arm, because that's what men like Daniel did. They moved on fast, loudly, and with someone younger. Daniel, who had spent the last 2 months making sure everyone at Harmon and Stell knew that I was the one who couldn't let go, that I was bitter, that I still texted him at odd hours asking why. I hadn't texted him in 6 weeks, but the truth didn't matter. The story did. And the story he was telling made me look pathetic. I poured another glass of wine and opened my laptop. There had to be a solution, something temporary, something clean. 20 minutes later, I found myself on a website I never thought I'd visit. Rent-A-Date. The name alone made my skin crawl, but I clicked through anyway, scrolling past faces that looked too polished, too eager, too much like they were auditioning for a role in someone else's midlife crisis. Then I saw him, Noah Bennett. 32. No bio. Just a single photo. A candid shot, slightly out of focus, like someone had caught him mid-conversation. Dark hair, sharp jaw, eyes that didn't try to sell you anything. He looked normal, tired even, like he had a life outside of this. I clicked his profile. Available for professional events, family gatherings, social functions. Rates? Negotiable. Experience? Discreet, reliable, no drama. No drama. That was all I needed. I sent a message before I could talk myself out of it. Hi. I need someone for a work event this Saturday. Black tie. Just show up, smile, and don't embarrass me. I'll pay double your rate if you can make my ex-boyfriend regret ever speaking to me. Interested? He responded in under 5 minutes. I can do that. Send me the details. That was it. No questions, no small talk, just business. I should have known then that something was off, but I didn't. I was too busy feeling relieved that I wouldn't have to walk into that gala alone, wouldn't have to endure the pitying looks from colleagues who'd watched my relationship with Daniel implode in real time. I sent him the address, the time, the dress code. He confirmed with a single word, got it, professional, efficient, exactly what I needed. I closed my laptop and finished my wine, already mentally rehearsing the lies I'd tell when people asked how we met. Saturday came faster than I wanted. I spent the morning cleaning my apartment, which was stupid because Noah wasn't coming inside. Then I spent the afternoon in a boutique I couldn't afford, buying a dress I didn't need because if I was going to walk into that gala with a rented boyfriend, I was going to look like I didn't need one. The dress was midnight blue, fitted, with a neckline that suggested confidence I didn't feel. I paired it with heels that made me 2 inches taller and a shade of lipstick my mother would have called aggressive. By 5 p.m., I was standing in my bedroom, staring at myself in the full-length mirror, trying to recognize the woman looking back. She looked put together, polished, like someone who had their life figured out. It was a lie, but it was a good one. My phone buzzed at 5:47. I'm outside. I grabbed my clutch, checked my reflection one last time, and headed downstairs. The evening air was cool, carrying the scent of rain that hadn't fallen yet. I stepped out onto the sidewalk and saw him immediately. He was leaning against a black sedan, hands in his pockets, looking at his phone. The suit was charcoal gray, tailored so well it might have been custom. His tie was perfectly knotted. His shoes were polished to a mirror shine. He looked up when I approached, and for a second neither of us said anything. Up close, he was better looking than his photo suggested. Not in an obvious way. He wasn't going to stop traffic, but there was something about the way he carried himself, calm, self-possessed, like he knew exactly who he was and didn't need anyone else's approval. "Lily?" he asked. "Noah." He straightened and I noticed the way he moved, smooth, deliberate, like someone who knew exactly how much space he took up in the world. "You clean up well," I said, and immediately regretted it. Too familiar, too casual. He smiled, just a little. "So do you." We stood there for another beat, sizing each other up like fighters before a match. "So," I said finally, "here's the deal. My ex-boyfriend is going to be there. His name is Daniel. He's tall, blonde, works in acquisitions, and he's going to try to make me feel small. Your job is to make sure that doesn't happen." Noah nodded slowly. "What's his angle?" "He'll ask how we met. He'll ask what you do. He'll ask why you're with me, probably in a way that sounds like a compliment, but isn't. He'll try to find a crack and wedge himself into it. Just don't give him one." "Got it." He opened the car door for me. "Anything else I should know?" I slid into the passenger seat. "Just don't fall in love with me." He laughed, short and low. "I'll do my best." The interior of the car was clean, smelled faintly of leather and something else. Cedar, maybe. He got in beside me and started the engine. "Nice car," I said. "It's a rental." "You rented a car for this?" "You're paying me well enough." He glanced at me. I figured I should look the part. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. We drove in silence for a few minutes, the city sliding past outside the windows. Office buildings gave way to brownstones, then to the wealthier neighborhoods where trees lined the streets and the houses had gates. "You nervous?" he asked. "No." "You're fidgeting." I looked down. He was right. My hands were twisting the strap of my clutch. "I'm fine," I said. "It's okay to be nervous." "I'm not nervous. I'm just focused," he smiled. "Sure." I shot him a look. "You're supposed to be on my side." "I am on your side. That's why I'm telling you to relax. If you walk in there looking tense, he's going to know he got to you." "He didn't get to me." "Then stop strangling your purse." I let go of the strap and folded my hands in my lap. "Better?" "Better." We pulled up to the Whitmore estate 10 minutes later. The place was lit up like a movie set. Every window glowing, white lights strung through the trees. Valets in matching vests were opening car doors, ushering guests toward the entrance. Noah handed the keys to one of them and came around to my side. He offered me his arm. I took it, and together we walked toward the grand entrance. The Harmon and Stell Gala was held in the main ballroom, a sprawling space with vaulted ceilings, chandeliers that looked like they belonged in a palace, and enough marble to build a small monument. A string quartet played near the entrance. Waiters in white gloves carried trays of champagne that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I hated it immediately. Not because it was gaudy. It wasn't. It was beautiful, in the way that things designed to impress always are. I hated it because it reminded me of everything I wasn't. I didn't come from money. I didn't summer in the Hamptons or know which fork to use for the salad course. I was here because I was good at my job, and that was it. Noah didn't seem fazed. He moved through the crowd with the kind of ease that came from experience, nodding politely at people, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter without breaking stride. "You've done this before," I said quietly. "Once or twice." "Rent a date?" "No. Events like this." Before I could ask what he meant, a voice called out, "Lily!" I turned, already bracing myself. It was Sandra from PR, all teeth and pearls and passive aggression wrapped in a designer dress. "I didn't know you were bringing someone," she said, eyes darting to Noah with barely concealed curiosity. "Sandra, this is Noah," I said smoothly. "Noah, this is Sandra. She handles our public image." Noah extended a hand. "Nice to meet you." Sandra shook it, holding on a little too long. And what do you do, Noah? Consulting, he said, effortless. Nothing as exciting as this. She laughed, charmed already. Well, you're lucky to have Lily. She's one of our rising stars. I smiled tightly. Sandra had never called me a rising star before. In fact, the last time we'd spoken, she'd CC'd my supervisor on an email pointing out a typo in a press release. As she walked away, Noah leaned in close. She doesn't like you. No one here likes me, I muttered. They just tolerate me because I'm good at my job. That's better than being liked for the wrong reasons. I glanced at him, surprised. Is that experience talking? Something like that. Before I could press further, I saw him. Daniel. He was near the bar, laughing too loud, hand resting possessively on the waist of a woman I didn't recognize. She was younger, prettier, wearing a dress that probably cost more than my car. Everything I wasn't supposed to care about, but did anyway. Noah followed my gaze. That him? Yeah. You want to leave? No. I straightened my shoulders. I want a drink. We walked to the bar together, and I felt Daniel's eyes on me the entire way. By the time we reached the counter, he was already moving toward us. Lily, he said, voice dripping with false warmth. You look great. Thanks. His eyes shifted to Noah, sizing him up the way men do when they're trying to figure out if someone's a threat. And who's this? Noah Bennett, Noah said, extending a hand. Pleasure. Daniel shook it, gripped just a little too firm. Daniel Cross. I work upstairs in acquisitions. How do you two know each other? We met through mutual friends, I said quickly. Daniel smirked. Mutual friends. That's convenient. Noah didn't react. He just smiled, calm and steady. Small world. Must be. Daniel's gaze lingered on me, and I saw the calculation behind his eyes. I'm surprised you came, Lily. Last year you skipped. I had my reasons. Right. His tone turned pointed. You were going through a lot. There it was. The jab disguised as concern. I felt my jaw tighten. This was exactly what I'd expected. Him twisting the knife, making me the fragile one, the one who couldn't handle the breakup. But before I could respond, Noah spoke. She seems fine to me, he said, voice even. Better than fine, actually. Daniel blinked, caught off guard. Sorry? I said she seems fine. Noah's smile didn't waver, but something in his eyes sharpened. You know how it is. Sometimes the best thing that happens to someone is realizing they don't need what they thought they did. The air between them shifted. Daniel's jaw tightened. I don't think we've met before. What did you say you do? I didn't. Consulting, right? Daniel's tone turned condescending. That's pretty vague. It is, Noah agreed, but it pays well. I bit back a smile. Daniel's date appeared at his elbow, looking bored. Babe, they're starting the auction soon. He barely glanced at her. Yeah, 1 second. She rolled her eyes and walked off, clearly used to being dismissed. Noah watched her go, then looked back at Daniel. You should probably catch up with her. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a dismissal. Daniel's face flushed, but he forced a laugh. Right. Well, good seeing you, Lily. Enjoy your night. He turned and walked away, shoulders stiff. I exhaled slowly, realizing I'd been holding my breath. Noah picked up his drink and took a sip, unbothered. What the hell was that? I whispered. What? You just destroyed him. He shrugged. He was being an ass. Yeah, but... I stopped, studying him. You didn't even flinch. Most people would have gotten defensive. I'm not most people. That much was becoming clear. I took a sip of my champagne, trying to process what had just happened. Daniel had looked genuinely rattled. I'd never seen him rattled. Not when I'd confronted him about the intern he'd been texting. Not when I'd packed up my things from his apartment. Not ever. But Noah had done it with 3 sentences and a smile. Thank you, I said quietly. For what? For having my back. He looked at me, and for a moment the noise of the gala faded. That's what you hired me for. Right. That's what I'd hired him for. I needed to remember that. The rest of the night unfolded like a strange, surreal dream. Noah moved through the crowd with an ease I couldn't explain. He knew when to speak and when to listen. He made people laugh without trying. He asked questions that made executives feel heard, made assistants feel seen, and he never once made me feel like I was the punchline. We circulated through the ballroom, stopping to chat with colleagues I barely tolerated. Noah charmed every single one of them. By the time we reached the auction tables, Sandra had already texted 3 people asking who he was. "You're good at this," I said as we examined a silent auction item, a weekend getaway to some vineyard I'd never heard of. "At what?" "This. Talking to people, making them like you. It's not hard. You just ask them about themselves and pretend to care." "You're not pretending." He glanced at me. "How do you know?" "Because I've seen people pretend. You're not doing that." He smiled, but didn't respond. We moved to the next table, a golf package, a private cooking class with some celebrity chef, a collection of vintage wines. "You planning to bid on anything?" Noah asked. "No. You?" "I don't golf." "What do you do? For fun, I mean." He considered the question. "I read. I run. I spend time with my daughter." I stopped walking. "You have a daughter?" His expression shifted just slightly. "Yeah." "How old?" 6. "And her mother?" "Not in the picture." I waited for him to elaborate, but he didn't. "That must be hard," I said. "It is." He looked at me. "But she's worth it." There was something in his voice, a softness I hadn't heard before. It made him seem more real, less like the polished stranger I'd hired. Before I could ask anything else, the lights dimmed. A voice came over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take your seats, dinner will be served shortly." We found our table near the back. I'd requested a spot far from the main stage, hoping to avoid attention. Noah pulled out my chair before sitting beside me. The other seats filled quickly. A couple from legal, an accountant whose name I could never remember, a junior partner and his wife. Introductions were made, small talk commenced, and through it all, Noah played his part perfectly. He was attentive without being overbearing. He laughed at jokes that weren't funny. He complimented the accountant's tie and asked the junior partner thoughtful questions about his work. But every so often, I'd catch him looking at me. Not in a performative way, like he was trying to sell the relationship, just looking, like he was checking in, making sure I was okay. It was disarming. Dinner was a blur of courses I didn't taste and wine I drank too quickly. By the time dessert arrived, some elaborate chocolate thing that probably had a French name, I was pleasantly buzzed and feeling more relaxed than I had in months. "You're smiling," Noah said quietly. "Am I?" "Yeah, it's nice." I looked at him, and for a moment I forgot where we were, forgot why he was here, forgot that this was all fake. "I'm having a good time," I admitted. "Me too." "You don't have to say that." "I'm not just saying it." The lights dimmed again. A projector screen descended from the ceiling. Richard Harmon, one of the senior partners, took the stage. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight." I tuned out the speech. I'd heard it before, some variation of it, anyway. Words about growth and innovation and commitment to excellence, corporate platitudes that meant nothing. Instead, I found myself watching Noah. He was listening, or at least appeared to be, but there was something distant in his expression, like part of him was somewhere else. "You okay?" I whispered. He nodded. "Fine." "You look like you're thinking about something." "I am." "What?" He hesitated, then said, "How much longer do we have to stay?" I glanced at my watch. "Another hour, maybe." "Why?" "Because I want to talk to you. Actually talk, not this." He gestured vaguely at the ballroom. "We are talking." "You know what I mean." I did, but I wasn't sure I was ready for whatever conversation he was suggesting. "Let's get through the auction first," I said. He nodded and turned his attention back to the stage. But I could feel the shift between us. Something had changed, and I wasn't sure if that was good or bad. The auction took forever. Item after item was presented, bid on, sold. People raised paddles like it was a game, throwing around money they didn't need to spend on things they didn't need. I watched Daniel bid on a ski trip. He won with a smug grin, probably imagining himself on some slope with his new girlfriend. "You want me to outbid him?" Noah asked. "What?" "I can outbid him, if you want." I laughed. "On what?" "Anything. Next item that comes up." That's ridiculous. So, the next item was a private art tour in Italy. Noah raised his paddle. What are you doing? I hissed. Making a point. By spending $10,000 on something neither of us will use? Who says we won't use it? The auctioneer called out, going once, going twice. Noah raised his paddle again. Sold to number 73. I stared at him. You just bought a trip to Italy. We just bought a trip to Italy. We're not going to Italy. Why not? Because this isn't real, Noah. None of this is real. The words came out harsher than I intended, and I saw something flicker in his expression. Right, he said quietly. I forgot. I felt a pang of guilt, but pushed it down. I'm going to the restroom. I stood and walked away before he could respond. Magic. The bathroom was empty, thank God. I leaned against the sink and stared at my reflection, trying to figure out what the hell was happening. This was supposed to be simple. Hire a guy, show up at the gala, make Daniel regret ever hurting me. Mission accomplished. But nothing about this felt simple anymore. Noah wasn't what I'd expected. He was too smart, too perceptive, too real. And I was starting to like him, which was a problem, because this wasn't real. He was being paid to be here. Every smile, every kind word, every moment of connection, it was all part of the job. I needed to remember that. The door opened and a woman walked in. One of the senior partner's wives. She smiled at me politely and disappeared into a stall. I took a breath, fixed my lipstick, and headed back out. Noah was standing near the terrace doors when I returned. You okay? He asked. Fine. You were gone a while. I needed a minute. He nodded, then gestured toward the doors. Want to get some air? I hesitated, then followed him outside. The terrace overlooked the gardens, which were lit with soft white lights. The air was cool, carrying the scent of roses and freshly cut grass. We stood at the railing, not speaking. Finally, Noah broke the silence. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For the Italy thing. I shouldn't have done that. It's fine. It's not. You were right. This isn't real. I got caught up in the moment. I looked at him. Why? Why what? Why did you get caught up? You do this for a living, right? Play pretend for strangers? He was quiet for a long moment. I don't do it for a living, he said finally. I do it, occasionally, when I need the money or when I need the distraction. Distraction from what? From the fact that my real life is complicated and exhausting and nothing like this. This is fake. I know. He turned to face me. But being here with you tonight felt more real than anything I've done in a long time. I didn't know what to say to that. I should go, I said. Lily, this was a mistake. All of it. I turned and walked back inside, leaving him standing alone on the terrace. Dick. I found my coat, told Sandra I wasn't feeling well, and called a car. By the time I got home, my phone had 3 missed calls from Noah. I ignored them. I kicked off my heels, poured myself a glass of water, and sat on my couch in the dark. What had I been thinking? Hiring a stranger, bringing him into my world, letting him get close enough to make me feel something. It was reckless, stupid, and the worst part was I wanted to see him again. My phone buzzed. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to overstep. If you want me to leave you alone, I will. But if you want to talk, I'm here. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. I didn't hear from Noah for 3 days. Part of me was relieved. The other part, the part I didn't want to admit existed, was disappointed. I threw myself into work, burying myself in spreadsheets and reports, trying to forget the way he'd looked at me on that terrace, the way he'd dismantled Daniel without breaking a sweat, the way Richard Harmon had recognized his name. Wait, Richard Harmon had recognized his name. I sat up straighter in my chair. What had he said? Something about the Bennett Group? I opened a new browser tab and typed Bennett Group. The results loaded instantly. Bennett, Capital Group, private equity firm. Assets under management, $18 billion. I clicked on the leadership page, and there he was, Noah Bennett, former managing director. My stomach dropped. I scrolled through the bio. Harvard MBA, 10 years in finance. Left the firm 2 years ago for undisclosed reasons. I sat back trying to process. He wasn't just some guy who needed extra cash. He was from one of the most powerful financial families in the country, and he'd let me hire him like he was nobody. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a full minute before replying. How did you get my number? You gave it to me when you hired me. Right. What do you want? To explain. There's nothing to explain. You lied. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. I almost laughed. That's the same thing. It's not. And you know it. I set the phone down, frustrated. He was right. I'd hired him to play a role. He'd done exactly that. But something about the whole thing felt wrong. My phone buzzed again. Meet me for coffee. 1 hour. I'll answer whatever you want to know. I shouldn't have gone, but I did. The cafe was small, tucked into a quiet corner of the city where no one from Harmon and Stell would ever go. Noah was already there, sitting in the back with 2 cups of coffee. I slid into the seat across from him, arms crossed. Talk, I said. He pushed one of the cups toward me. I'm not with the Bennett Group anymore. I left 2 years ago. Why? Because I didn't want to be the person they were trying to turn me into. And who was that? Someone who cared more about money than people. I studied him, searching for the lie. So you just walked away? More or less. I still have my trust fund, but I don't touch it. I do consulting work now, small projects, things that matter. And Rent-A-Date. He smiled faintly. That started as a joke. A friend dared me to sign up, said I'd never actually do it. But then someone messaged me, and I thought, why not? It was simple, anonymous. No one expected anything from me. No one knew who I was. And for a few hours, I got to be normal. You're not normal. I know. I took a sip of coffee, letting that sink in. You know what I think? I said finally. What? I think you're running from something. His smile faded. Maybe I am. And I think you're using people like me to do it. He didn't argue. We sat in silence for a long moment. I didn't mean to make you feel used, he said quietly. That wasn't my intention. Then what was? He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something raw in his expression. I liked the way you talked to me, he said. Like I was just Noah, not a name, not a legacy, not someone you needed something from, just me. I didn't know what to say to that. I should go, I said, finally, standing. Lily, thanks for the coffee. I walked out before he could say anything else. But as I stepped onto the street, I realized something. I believed him. And that scared me more than anything. 2 weeks passed. I threw myself into work, landed a major client, got praised in a partners meeting. Everything should have felt like a win. But it didn't. Because every time I walked into the office, I thought about Noah. And every time I saw Daniel in the hall, I remembered the way Noah had stood beside me, calm and unshakable. I hated that I missed it. Then, one Friday afternoon, my assistant knocked on my door. There's someone here to see you. Who? He wouldn't say. Just asked for you by name. I frowned. Send him in. The door opened. Noah stepped inside, dressed casually this time. Jeans, a dark shirt, no tie. He looked tired. What are you doing here? I asked, keeping my voice steady. I need your help, he said. I almost laughed. You need my help? Yeah. With what? He hesitated, then said, My daughter's school is having a parent event next week, Father-Daughter Day, and I can't go alone. I stared at him. You want me to pretend to be what? Your girlfriend? Her mother? No. He shook his head. I want you to come as you. Just be there. So she can see that I have someone in my life who cares, so she doesn't think I'm completely alone. My chest tightened. Why me? I asked. He met my eyes. Because you're the only person who's ever treated me like I was worth showing up for. I sat back in my chair trying to process. What's her name? I asked. Emma. And you're raising her alone? Yeah, her mother left when she was 2. Haven't heard from her since. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're better off. I believed him. I'll think about it, I said. He nodded. That's all I'm asking. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I wasn't pretending that night. Not about you. And then he was gone. I sat there for a long time, staring at the space he'd left behind. And for the first time in months, I let myself feel something other than anger. I let myself feel hope. I texted him that night. What time is the event? His response came 3 minutes later. Saturday, 10 a.m. I can pick you up. I'll meet you there. Send me the address. Thank you. I stared at those 2 words for longer than I should have, then put my phone face down on the coffee table and tried to convince myself I wasn't making another mistake. The address arrived 10 minutes later. Riverside Elementary. A school on the west side of the city I'd driven past 100 times but never noticed. I spent the rest of the week second-guessing everything. What was I doing? Going to some kid's school event with a man I barely knew? Pretending to be part of a life that wasn't mine? But every time I thought about backing out, I remembered the look on Noah's face when he'd asked. The quiet desperation, the vulnerability. He wasn't performing then. That much I knew. Saturday morning came too fast. I dressed carefully, jeans, a simple sweater, nothing too formal, but nothing that screamed, I don't belong here. I pulled my hair back, kept my makeup light, and left my apartment before I could change my mind. The drive took 20 minutes. Riverside Elementary was a small brick building surrounded by playground equipment and a chain-link fence. Cars were already filling the parking lot, families arriving with kids who bounced on their toes with excitement. I found a spot near the back and sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel. This was insane. I didn't know this man, didn't know his daughter, didn't know what I was walking into, but I got out of the car anyway. Noah was standing near the entrance, hands in his jacket pockets, scanning the crowd. When he saw me, his whole posture changed. Relief washed over his face. You came, he said. I said I would. I know, I just wasn't sure you'd actually show up. I don't say things I don't mean. He smiled, small and genuine. I'm learning that. A little girl appeared at his side, tugging on his sleeve. Daddy, who's that? I looked down and saw her for the first time. Emma was small for 6, with dark hair pulled into 2 messy braids and eyes that were a perfect copy of Noah's. She wore a purple jacket with a unicorn patch on the sleeve and sneakers that lit up when she walked. She was beautiful. Emma, this is Lily, Noah said. She's a friend of mine. Emma looked up at me with open curiosity. Are you Daddy's girlfriend? Noah's face flushed. Emma, it's okay, I said, crouching down to her level. I'm just a friend. Your dad asked me to come hang out with you guys today. Is that okay? She studied me for a moment, then nodded. Okay, but you have to be on my team for the 3-legged race. Deal. She grinned and grabbed my hand without hesitation, pulling me toward the entrance. Noah followed behind us, and when I glanced back, he mouthed, "Thank you." Inside, the gymnasium had been transformed into a festival of chaos. Stations were set up around the perimeter, face painting, ring toss, a bake sale, relay races. Parents and kids swarmed everywhere, voices echoing off the high ceiling. Emma dragged me from station to station, chattering nonstop about her friends, her teacher, the hamster in her classroom named Mr. Whiskers, who apparently had an attitude problem. Noah stayed close but quiet, watching the 2 of us with an expression I couldn't quite read. At the face painting booth, Emma demanded a butterfly. Purple and pink, she instructed the volunteer, a teenager who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. What about you? Noah asked me. I'm good. Come on, you have to get one. I really don't. Emma looked up at me with wide, pleading eyes. Please, then we'll match. I sighed. Fine, but nothing crazy. The teenager painted a small flower on my cheek. Simple, understated. Emma inspected it critically. It's pretty, she declared. But mine's better. Yours is definitely better, I agreed. Noah got a star on his hand because Emma insisted, and he didn't argue. We moved to the relay race station next, where parents and kids were lining up for the 3-legged race. Emma bounced on her toes, practically vibrating with excitement. You ready? I asked. I was born ready, she said, with the kind of confidence only a 6-year-old could muster. We tied our legs together with a piece of rope that smelled faintly of gym class. Noah stood on the sidelines with a group of other parents, arms crossed, trying not to smile. The whistle blew. Emma and I took off, stumbling immediately. Left, right, she shouted. I'm trying! We made it maybe 10 feet before nearly falling. I caught us at the last second, laughing so hard I could barely breathe. Come on, Lily, we can win this. We couldn't. We came in dead last, collapsing in a heap at the finish line, while Emma groaned dramatically. We almost had it, she said. We were nowhere close. But we tried really hard. That's what matters. Noah walked over and helped me up, still grinning. That was painful to watch. Thanks for the support, I said dryly. I'm just being honest. Emma grabbed both our hands. Can we get snacks now? We made our way to the bake sale, where Emma loaded up on cookies and brownies while Noah tried and failed to convince her that fruit was also an option. Apples are boring, she said. Sure. Apples are healthy. So are cookies, if you believe hard enough. I snorted, and Noah shot me a look. You're not helping. I'm not trying to. He bought her the cookies anyway. We found a spot on the bleachers to sit and eat. Emma wedged herself between us, swinging her legs and humming a song I didn't recognize. She likes you, Noah said quietly. How can you tell? She doesn't usually warm up to people this fast. I watched Emma demolish a chocolate chip cookie, completely absorbed in the task. She's easy to like, I said. Yeah, she is. There was something in his voice, pride mixed with exhaustion, like he was doing his best but wasn't sure it was enough. You're a good dad, I said. He looked at me surprised. What makes you say that? Because you showed up, and you keep showing up. That's more than a lot of people do. He didn't respond, but I saw the way his jaw tightened, like he was holding something back. Emma finished her cookie and hopped down from the bleachers. I'm going to go play on the swings. Stay where I can see you, Noah called after her. I will. She ran off, braids flying behind her. Noah and I sat in silence for a moment, watching her. Can I ask you something? I said. Sure. Why did you really want me here? He was quiet for a long time. Because I'm tired of doing this alone, he said finally. And because Emma deserves to see that I'm not just stuck, that I have a life outside of being her dad. You don't have to prove that to her. I know, but I want to prove it to myself. I understood that more than I wanted to admit. What about you? He asked. Why did you come? I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe because you asked. Maybe because I needed to see if you were real. And? Jury's still out. He smiled. Fair enough. Emma came running back, out of breath. Daddy, there's a talent show. Can I sign up? Noah's face went pale. A talent show? Yeah, kids get to go on stage and do stuff. I want to sing. Emma, please? He looked at me, helpless. You have to let her, I said. She's 6. So? So she doesn't know what stage fright is yet. Then she'll learn, he sighed. Fine. But if she freezes up there, you're coming with me to comfort her. Deal. 20 minutes later, Emma was backstage with a dozen other kids, clutching a microphone like her life depended on it. Noah and I sat in the front row, surrounded by other parents armed with cameras and forced smiles. I can't watch, Noah muttered. Yes, you can. The first few acts were exactly what you'd expect. Off-key singing, clumsy magic tricks, a kid who recited the alphabet backward and got stuck on cue. Then it was Emma's turn. She walked onto the stage, tiny under the bright lights, and I felt Noah tense beside me. She lifted the microphone, and she sang. It was a song I didn't recognize, something about stars and dreams and holding on. Her voice was small but clear, surprisingly steady for someone so young. The room went quiet. By the time she finished, half the parents were recording on their phones, and the other half were wiping their eyes. Emma took a little bow, grinning from ear to ear, and ran off stage. Noah stood and caught her as she launched herself into his arms. You were amazing, he said, voice thick. I know, she said, completely unaware of the effect she'd had. I stood there watching them, feeling something shift in my chest. This was real. This moment. This life. And I wanted to be part of it. That thought terrified me. After the talent show, the event started winding down. Parents collected their kids, thanked the teachers, made their way to the parking lot. Emma was exhausted, her earlier energy completely spent. She held Noah's hand, dragging her feet. "Can Lily come over?" she asked. Noah looked at me. "You don't have to." "I'd like to," I said. He blinked. "Yeah?" "Yeah." The ride to Noah's place was quiet. Emma fell asleep in the back seat within 5 minutes, head lolling against the window. I followed Noah's car through the city, out toward the suburbs where the streets got wider and the houses had actual yards. He pulled into the driveway of a modest 2-story home with blue shutters and a front porch that looked like it had seen better days. I parked behind him. Noah carried Emma inside, still asleep, and I followed. The house was normal, lived in. There were toys scattered across the living room floor, dishes in the sink, a pile of laundry on the couch that hadn't been folded yet. It looked nothing like what I'd expected from someone with his background. "Sorry about the mess," Noah said, laying Emma down on the couch and covering her with a blanket. "It's fine. I wasn't expecting company." "I don't care about the mess, Noah." He looked at me like he didn't quite believe me. "You want coffee?" he asked. "Sure." I followed him into the kitchen, which was small but functional. He started the coffee maker, moving through the motions like he'd done it 1,000 times. "This is a nice place," I said. "It's small, but it's ours." "How long have you been here?" 3 years. After I left the firm, I wanted something simpler. Somewhere Emma could have a yard, ride her bike, just be a kid. "And your family? They were okay with you leaving?" His expression darkened. "No, they weren't." "What happened?" He poured 2 mugs of coffee, handed me one. "They wanted me to take over the company. My father spent 20 years grooming me for it, and when I told him I didn't want it, he cut me off, said I was wasting my potential." "That's harsh." "That's my family." I took a sip of coffee, letting that sink in. "Do you regret it? Leaving?" "Yeah." He thought about it. "No, I regret hurting my father. I regret the distance it created, but I don't regret choosing Emma, or choosing a life that's mine." "What about your mom?" "She died when I was 12. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. She would have understood." We stood there in silence for a moment, the weight of the conversation settling between us. "Can I ask you something now?" he said. "Go ahead." "Why are you really here, Lily? And don't say you don't know." I set my mug down, trying to find the right words. "Because I've spent the last 8 months trying to convince myself I'm fine," I said. "That I don't need anyone. That being alone is easier than being hurt. And then you showed up and made me feel like maybe I was wrong." He didn't say anything, just watched me with those steady, unreadable eyes. "I don't know what this is," I continued. "I don't know if it's real or if I'm just projecting. But I know I don't want to walk away yet." He crossed the space between us in 2 steps, close enough that I could see the faint scar above his left eyebrow, the flecks of gold in his eyes. "It's real," he said quietly. "Whatever this is, it's real." And then he kissed me. It wasn't rushed or desperate. It was careful, deliberate, like he was giving me the chance to pull away. I didn't. When we finally broke apart, I was breathless. "That was..." "Yeah," he said. We stood there for a moment, neither of us sure what to say. Then Emma's voice drifted in from the living room. "Daddy?" Noah pulled back, running a hand through his hair. "Yeah, sweetheart? I'm hungry." He smiled. "Of course you are." He looked at me. "You staying for dinner?" "If you'll have me." "Always." Dinner was chaotic. Emma insisted on helping, which meant the kitchen became a war zone of spilled flour and broken eggs. We made pancakes, her choice, even though it was 6 p.m. She sat at the table, drowning her stack in syrup, and declared it the best meal ever. Noah and I cleaned up while she watched cartoons, and the domesticity of it all felt surreal. "This is nice," I said, drying a plate. "What is?" "This. All of it." He smiled. "Yeah, it is." By 8 p.m., Emma was asleep again, this time in her bed upstairs. Noah came back down and found me on the couch, flipping through a book I'd found on the coffee table. "She out?" I asked. "Like a light." He sat beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. "Thank you for today," he said. "You already thanked me." "I know, but I mean it. You didn't have to come. And you definitely didn't have to stay. I wanted to. He looked at me, and I saw the question in his eyes before he asked it. What are we doing, Lily? I don't know, I said honestly. But I think I want to find out. He reached for my hand, lacing his fingers through mine. Me too. We sat like that for a long time, not talking, just existing in the same space. And for the first time in months, I felt something I'd almost forgotten. I felt safe. I left around 10, promising to text when I got home. The drive back to my apartment felt longer than it should have, my mind replaying every moment of the day. Emma's laugh, Noah's smile, the way he'd looked at me in the kitchen. I was in trouble. Deep, complicated, terrifying trouble. Because this wasn't just attraction anymore. It wasn't just curiosity. I was starting to care, and that meant I had something to lose. I pulled into my parking spot and sat there for a moment, staring at the building. My phone buzzed. Did you make it home? Yeah, just got here. Good. Sleep well. You too. I sat there for another minute, then forced myself to get out of the car. Inside my apartment, everything felt too quiet, too empty. I poured myself a glass of water and stood at the window, looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, Noah was putting his daughter to bed, reading her a story, turning off the lights, living a life I wasn't part of. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I went to bed that night with too many thoughts and not enough answers. But when I closed my eyes, I saw Emma's face. And Noah's. And I knew, no matter how hard I tried to convince myself otherwise, I was already in too deep. Monday came too fast. I walked into Harmon and Stell with my coffee and my game face, ready to bury myself in work and forget about the mess I was creating in my personal life. But the universe had other plans. I was halfway to my office when Sandra intercepted me. Lily, we need to talk. Her tone was clipped, professional, the kind of voice that meant trouble. About what? Conference room. Now. I followed her, dread pooling in my stomach. Inside the conference room, Richard Harmon was waiting. He stood when I entered, gesturing to a chair. Miss Carter, please sit. I sat, keeping my expression neutral. Is there a problem? I asked. That depends, Harmon said. Are you aware of the Weston deal? The Weston deal, a major acquisition we'd been working on for 6 months. High profile, high stakes. Of course. And are you aware that the Bennett Group is one of the primary investors? My blood went cold. I wasn't aware. No. Harmon's eyes narrowed. Strange, because you were seen at the gala 2 weeks ago with Noah Bennett. Sandra jumped in. We've done some digging, Lily. Noah Bennett is directly tied to several shell companies involved in the Weston acquisition, which means you've been fraternizing with someone who has a vested interest in a deal you've been working on. That's not... I stopped, trying to gather my thoughts. I didn't know. He never mentioned it. That's not a defense, Harmon said coldly. It's a liability. I haven't shared any confidential information with him. I haven't even talked to him about work. That doesn't matter. The appearance of impropriety is enough. I felt the walls closing in. What are you saying? Harmon leaned forward. I'm saying you need to cut ties with Noah Bennett immediately, or we'll be forced to remove you from the Weston deal entirely. You can't do that. We can, and we will. I stood, hands shaking. This is insane. I've done nothing wrong. Then prove it, Sandra said. End whatever this is with Bennett, or deal with the consequences. I walked out of that room barely holding it together. Back in my office, I closed the door and leaned against it, trying to breathe. This couldn't be happening. I grabbed my phone and called Noah. He answered on the second ring. Hey. Did you know? I cut him off. Silence. Did you know your company is involved in the Weston deal? More silence. Noah, answer me. I knew, he said finally. My heart dropped. And you didn't think to tell me? I didn't think it mattered. I'm not involved in that side of things anymore. It doesn't matter what you think. My boss has just threatened to pull me off the biggest deal of my career because of you. Lily, no, don't. Just don't. I hung up, and I sat there staring at my phone, feeling everything I'd started to build crumble around me. This was exactly what I'd been afraid of, getting close to someone, letting them in, and watching it all fall apart. I didn't hear from Noah for the rest of the day. Part of me was relieved. The other part felt like I was drowning. That night, I sat in my apartment with a bottle of wine I didn't open and a deadline I couldn't focus on. My phone buzzed around 9. "What's yet? Can I see you?" I stared at the message. Every logical part of my brain said no, but I typed yes anyway. He was at my door 20 minutes later. I let him in without a word. We stood in my living room, the silence heavy between us. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what? For lying? For putting my career at risk?" "I didn't lie, and I never meant to put you in this position." "But you did, Noah, whether you meant to or not." He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "What do you want me to say, Lily? That I should have told you about the Weston deal the second I met you? I didn't think it was relevant." "Of course it's relevant. Everything about you is relevant. Why? Because I have money? Because my last name opens doors? Because you're not just some guy I hired anymore? Because this," I gestured between us, "this matters now. And I don't know how to navigate that when you keep hiding things from me." He stepped closer. "I'm not hiding. I'm just trying to figure out how to be normal. How to have something that isn't tied to my family or my past or the expectations everyone has of me." "Well, you picked the wrong person for that." "Did I?" I looked at him and saw the same fear I felt reflected in his eyes. "I don't know," I said quietly. He reached for my hand. "Let me fix this." "How?" "I'll pull out of the Weston deal. I'll sever any connection that could hurt you." "You can't do that. Watch me." "Noah, you matter more," he said simply. And I didn't know whether to believe him or run. So I did neither. I just stood there holding his hand, trying to figure out if this was the beginning of something real or the end of everything I'd worked for. "You can't just walk away from a deal like that," I said, pulling my hand back. "Do you have any idea what that would cost you?" "I don't care." "Well, I do. Because if you blow up your life for me and this doesn't work out, then what? You resent me? We both end up with nothing?" Noah's jaw tightened. "That's not going to happen." "You don't know that." "Neither do you." We stood there in my living room, the space between us feeling wider than it actually was. "I need time to think," I said finally. "How much time?" "I don't know. Just time." He nodded slowly, like he'd expected this. "Okay, take whatever you need." He turned toward the door, then stopped. "For what it's worth," he said without looking back, "I meant what I said. You matter more than some deal, more than the money, more than any of it." And then he left. I stood there long after the door closed, staring at the space he'd occupied, trying to make sense of the wreckage spreading through my chest. The next morning, I walked into Harmon and Stell with my shoulders back and my expression neutral, determined to prove that Noah Bennett was a complication I could handle. I buried myself in the Weston deal, cross-checking numbers, reviewing contracts, doing everything I could to make myself indispensable. If they were going to question my professionalism, I'd give them no room for doubt. But by Wednesday, the whispers had started. I heard them in the break room, saw the way colleagues looked at me in meetings. Sandra's assistant gave me a pitying smile in the elevator. Even Daniel seemed smug, like he'd known all along that I'd find a way to sabotage myself. Thursday afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Ms. Carter?" The voice was unfamiliar, male, clipped with the kind of authority that came from old money and older power. "Yes." "Who is this?" "Charles Bennett, Noah's father." My stomach dropped. "I think you and I should meet," he continued. "There are some things we need to discuss. About my son, and about your involvement with him." "I don't think that's appropriate." "I disagree. Tomorrow, 1 p.m., the Greystone Club. I'll have your name at the door." "Mr. Bennett, I'm not asking Ms. Carter. I'm telling you, if you care about Noah at all, you'll show up." He hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, heart pounding. This was escalating in ways I couldn't control. I should have told Noah, should have called him immediately. But I didn't. Because part of me needed to know what his father wanted, needed to understand what I was really dealing with. The Greystone Club was exactly what I expected. Old wood paneling, leather chairs, the kind of place where deals were made over scotch and cigars, where money talked and everyone else listened. I gave my name at the door and was escorted to a private dining room overlooking the city. Charles Bennett was waiting. He was older than I'd imagined, maybe late 60s, with silver hair and Noah's eyes. He wore a suit that probably cost more than my car and a watch that could have paid my rent for a year. "Ms. Carter," he said, standing, "thank you for coming." I didn't feel like I had much choice. "You always have a choice. Please sit." I sat, keeping my hands folded in my lap, trying not to show how out of place I felt. "Can I offer you something to drink?" "No." He poured himself a glass of water, taking his time. "I'll get straight to the point. My son has made some questionable decisions in recent years. Walking away from the family business, cutting himself off from opportunities most people would kill for, living in that absurd little house, pretending to be something he's not. He's being a father," I said. "There's nothing questionable about that. I'm not questioning his dedication to Emma. I'm questioning his judgment, and now he's involved with you. Is that a problem?" "That depends. What do you want from him?" I met his eyes. "Nothing. Everyone wants something, Ms. Carter. Money, status, a way up the ladder. So tell me, which is it?" "None of the above." I didn't even know who he was when I met him. Charles smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Yes, I heard about that. The escort service, very creative." Heat flooded my face. "It wasn't like that." "Wasn't it? You paid my son to accompany you to a corporate event, and now you're sleeping with him. That's none of your business. It became my business the moment you put his name in the same sentence as the Weston deal. Do you have any idea the position that puts him in, the scrutiny it invites? I didn't ask for any of this, and yet here we are." He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "Noah is many things, Miss Carter. Stubborn, idealistic, sometimes reckless, but he's not stupid. And I know my son well enough to know that when he cares about something, he becomes single-minded, destructive even." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying he's willing to blow up the Weston deal for you, walk away from millions, sever relationships that took years to build, all because he thinks you're worth it." My throat tightened. "He told you that?" "He didn't have to. I know how he operates. And I'm asking you, do you really want to be the reason he destroys everything he's built? Everything our family has built? He built that life himself. You just said he walked away from you. He walked away from the company, not from the family, not from the legacy. Whether he admits it or not, he's still a Bennett. And that comes with responsibilities he can't just ignore." I stood up. "I didn't come here to be lectured about your son's responsibilities." "Then why did you come?" "Because you told me to." Charles stood as well, and for a moment we just looked at each other. "I'm going to be very clear with you," he said quietly. "Noah is on the verge of making a decision that will cost him everything. And if you have any decency, you'll walk away before he does." "Or what?" "Or you'll watch him lose the one thing he actually cares about. His daughter." My blood went cold. "Are you threatening to take Emma from him?" "I'm stating facts. Noah's custody arrangement isn't as solid as he'd like to think. Emma's mother may not be in the picture now, but she has family, lawyers. And if they decided to challenge Noah's fitness as a parent, especially if his judgment is being called into question, things could get very complicated very quickly." I felt sick. "You'd do that to your own son?" "I'd do whatever it takes to protect my family's interests, including protecting Noah from himself." I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. "Ms. Carter." I stopped but didn't turn around. "I'm not the villain here," Charles said. "I'm just trying to make sure everyone involved understands the stakes." I left without responding. Outside, I stood on the sidewalk, shaking, not from fear, from rage. I called Noah the second I got to my car. "Hey, we need to talk, now. What happened?" "Not over the phone. Where are you?" "At home. Emma's at school. Come over." I drove faster than I should have, barely registering the traffic or the lights or the world around me. By the time I pulled into his driveway, I was ready to burn everything down. Noah opened the door before I could knock. "What's wrong?" "Your father," I said, pushing past him into the house. "That's what's wrong." His face went pale. "What did he do?" "He called me, told me to meet him, and then spent 20 minutes trying to convince me I'm ruining your life." "He had no right. He also threatened to take Emma from you." Noah froze. "What?" He said if you blow up the Weston deal, if you keep making questionable decisions, he'll make sure Emma's mother's family challenges your custody. He's bluffing, is he? Noah didn't answer. I sat down on the couch, suddenly exhausted. I can't do this, Noah. I can't be the reason you lose your daughter. You're not. Yes, I am. Your father made that very clear. Noah sat beside me, his hands shaking. My father doesn't control my life. He doesn't get to dictate who I care about or what choices I make. Maybe not, but he has power, and he's willing to use it. Then let him try. Emma deserves better than being caught in the middle of this. Emma deserves a father who doesn't fold every time someone threatens him. I looked at him and saw the fear behind the bravado. You're scared, I said. Of course I'm scared, but that doesn't mean I'm backing down. Maybe you should. No. Noah. No, he repeated, firmer this time. I've spent my entire life letting other people tell me who I should be, what I should want, how I should live, and I'm done. I'm done pretending, I'm done compromising, and I'm done letting fear make my decisions for me. Even if it costs you everything? You're not everything, Emma is, and she's not going anywhere. My father knows that. He's just trying to scare you off. Well, it's working. Noah reached for my hand. Don't let him win. This isn't about winning. This is about protecting the people we care about. Then stay. Protect Emma by being here, by showing her that people don't just run when things get hard. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that this could work, that love, or whatever this was, could survive the mess we'd created. But I'd been burned before, and I wasn't sure I could survive it again. I need to go, I said, standing. Lily, I just need to think, please. He let me go. But as I drove away, I saw him standing in the doorway, watching me leave, and I wondered if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. That weekend, I didn't leave my apartment. I ignored calls from Sandra, texts from coworkers, even a voicemail from Daniel that I deleted without listening to. I just sat on my couch, staring at the walls, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do. Sunday night, my phone rang. It was Noah. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Emma wants to talk to you, he said without preamble. Noah, just, please, 2 minutes. There was a rustling sound, and then a small voice came on the line. Lily? My chest tightened. Hey, Emma. Are you mad at my dad? No, sweetheart. I'm not mad. Then why aren't you coming over anymore? I closed my eyes. It's complicated. That's what grown-ups always say when they don't want to tell the truth. I almost laughed. You're right, that's exactly what we do. So what's the real reason? I took a breath. The real reason is that I'm scared. I'm scared of messing things up. I'm scared of hurting your dad. And I'm scared of hurting you. But you're not hurting us, you're just not here. I know. My teacher says that being scared is okay, but being scared and doing nothing is just being a chicken. This time I did laugh. Your teacher sounds pretty smart. She is. She also says you should always try, even if you might fail, because at least then you know. Know what? If it was worth it. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, feeling something crack open inside me. Can I talk to your dad again? I asked. Okay. Bye, Lily. I miss you. I miss you too. Noah came back on the line. I didn't tell her to say any of that. I know. She really likes you. I really like her too. Silence. I'm pulling out of the Weston deal, Noah said. I already told my lawyers. By tomorrow morning, my name will be completely severed from it. No connections, no conflicts, nothing that can touch you. Noah, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. Because I don't want to be the kind of person who puts money over people, and I don't want Emma growing up thinking that's how the world works. I didn't know what to say. I can't promise this will be easy, he continued. I can't promise my father won't keep trying to interfere, but I can promise that I'm all in. And if you're willing to take that risk, I'd really like you to come over for dinner tomorrow night. What if this doesn't work? Then at least we tried, and at least Emma's teacher will be proud of us. I smiled through the tears I didn't know I was crying. What time? I asked. 6. Emma's making spaghetti. Fair warning, it's going to be a disaster. I wouldn't miss it. Monday morning, I walked into Harmon and Stell and went straight to Richard Harmon's office. His assistant tried to stop me, but I pushed past her. Ms. Carter, I need 5 minutes, I said, closing the door behind me. Harmon looked up from his desk, annoyed. This is highly inappropriate. So is threatening to pull me off a deal because of who I'm dating. We've been over this. Noah Bennett has severed all ties to the Weston acquisition. As of this morning, he has no financial interest, no involvement, and no connection to the deal whatsoever, which means there's no conflict of interest, which means you have no grounds to remove me. Harmon leaned back in his chair. Is that so? Check with legal if you don't believe me. But I'm staying on this deal, and if you try to push me out anyway, I'll file a complaint with HR for discrimination. Discrimination? Yes. Because the only reason you're targeting me is because I'm in a relationship with someone you perceive as a threat. And last I checked, my personal life isn't grounds for professional retaliation. Harmon studied me for a long moment. Then he smiled. You've got guts, Carter. I'll give you that. So I'm staying on the deal? For now. But if this blows up in any way, if there's even a hint of impropriety, you're done. Understood? Understood. I left his office feeling like I just won a battle, but not the war. Sandra was waiting in the hallway. That was stupid, she said. Probably. You're putting your entire career on the line for some guy you barely know. Maybe, or maybe I'm finally standing up for something that matters. Sandra shook her head. You're going to regret this. Maybe, but at least I'll have tried. I walked away before she could respond. That evening, I showed up at Noah's house at exactly 6 p.m. Emma answered the door, covered in tomato sauce. You came, she shouted, throwing her arms around me. I told you I would. I made spaghetti. I heard. It smells amazing. It didn't. It smelled like someone had set a kitchen on fire. But I didn't care. Noah appeared behind her, looking relieved and exhausted and happy all at once. Hey, he said. Hey. We stood there for a moment, just looking at each other. Then Emma grabbed my hand and pulled me inside. Come on, it's going to get cold. Dinner was exactly the disaster Noah had promised. The spaghetti was overcooked, the sauce was too salty, and Emma had somehow managed to get marinara on the ceiling. But it was perfect. We sat around the table, laughing and talking and pretending like the outside world didn't exist. After Emma went to bed, Noah and I sat on the couch with glasses of wine we didn't drink. Thank you, he said. For what? For coming back. For giving this a chance. Thank you for pulling out of the deal. I meant what I said. It wasn't for you. It was for me. I know, but it still mattered. He reached for my hand and I let him take it. What happens now? I asked. I don't know, but I think we figure it out together. What about your father? Let me worry about him. Noah. Lily, I've spent my whole life being afraid of what my father might do, what he might think, how he might react, and I'm done. Whatever he throws at me, I'll deal with it. But I'm not letting him control my life anymore. I wanted to believe him, and maybe, for the first time, I actually did. We sat there in the quiet, holding hands, and I felt something settle in my chest. This wasn't perfect, it wasn't simple, but it was real. And maybe that was enough. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange kind of peace. I worked on the Weston deal, making progress despite the whispers and the sideways glances. Noah kept his distance from anything work-related, focusing on Emma and the consulting projects that actually mattered to him. And slowly, carefully, we built something that felt like a relationship. Dinners at his place, morning coffee before work, weekends at the park with Emma. It was domestic and messy, and nothing like I'd imagined my life would look. But I didn't want to be anywhere else. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, everything fell apart. I was in a meeting when my phone started buzzing. Once, twice, 3 times. I ignored it. But when it buzzed a 4th time, I excused myself and stepped into the hallway. 7 missed calls from Noah. My stomach dropped. I called him back immediately. Lily? His voice was strained. I need you to stay calm. What happened? Emma's mother showed up at the school. She tried to take Emma. My blood went cold. What? The school called the police. They didn't let her leave with Emma, but she's claiming she has a right to see her daughter, and her lawyer just filed an emergency custody motion. How is that possible? You said she hasn't been in Emma's life for years. She hasn't, but apparently my father reached out to her family, offered them money, legal support, whatever it took to make this happen. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. He's using Emma to get to you. Yeah, and it's working. Where are you? At the school, with Emma. She's terrified, Lily. She doesn't even recognize her own mother. I'm coming. Stay there. I hung up and ran. I didn't care about the meeting, didn't care about the deal, didn't care about anything except getting to Noah and Emma. By the time I got to the school, police were still there. Noah was sitting on a bench outside the main office with Emma curled up in his lap, her face buried in his chest. Hey, I said softly, sitting beside them. Emma looked up, eyes red and swollen. Lily, she whispered. I'm here, sweetheart. Everything's going to be okay. That lady said she's my mom, but I don't know her. My heart broke. Noah looked at me over Emma's head, and I saw the fear in his eyes. What do we do? He mouthed. We fight, I mouthed back. And I meant it, because Charles Bennett had just made this personal, and I was done being afraid. That night, Emma refused to sleep in her own room. Noah carried her upstairs 3 times, but each time she'd appear in the doorway 10 minutes later, clutching her stuffed rabbit, eyes wide with fear. She can sleep with you tonight, I said quietly. Noah looked exhausted. I don't want her to think she has to be afraid in her own house. She's not afraid of the house. She's afraid of losing you. He didn't argue after that. We made a nest of blankets on the living room floor, turned on a movie Emma had seen 100 times, and let her fall asleep between us. Around midnight, when her breathing had finally evened out, Noah looked at me across the top of her head. I'm sorry, he whispered. For what? For dragging you into this mess. You didn't drag me anywhere. I chose to be here. You can still choose to leave. I reached across Emma and took his hand. I'm not going anywhere. His eyes glistened in the dim light from the TV. My father's not going to stop. You know that, right? This is just the beginning. Then we'll fight him at every step. He has unlimited resources, lawyers on retainer, connections everywhere. And you have something he doesn't. What's that? You're Emma's father, the only one she's ever known. No judge is going to take her away from you because of your father's grudge. You don't know that. Yes, I do, because I've seen you with her. I've seen the life you've built, and any court with half a brain will see it too. He wanted to believe me. I could see it in his face, but fear was louder than hope. The next morning, Noah called his lawyer. Her name was Rebecca Torres, and she had a reputation for being ruthless in family court. She arrived at Noah's house by 10 a.m., a slim woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a briefcase that looked like it had survived a war. Tell me everything, she said, setting up at the kitchen table. Noah walked her through it. Emma's mother disappearing 4 years ago, the custody agreement that gave him sole legal and physical custody, the complete absence of contact or support from her side. And now she just shows up? Rebecca asked. Not on her own. My father orchestrated this. He reached out to her family, probably offered them money. Rebecca made notes on her tablet. Do you have proof of that? No, but I know my father. Knowing and proving are 2 different things. She looked at me. And who are you? Lily Carter. She's my girlfriend, Noah said. Rebecca's expression didn't change. How long? A few weeks. And you live here? No, I said. I have my own place. But you're involved in Emma's life. Yes. Rebecca tapped her pen against the table. That's going to complicate things. The other side will argue that Noah's introducing unstable relationships into Emma's environment. There's nothing unstable about this, I said. I'm not saying there is. I'm saying that's how they'll frame it. New girlfriend, quick involvement with the child. They'll paint you as a distraction, a risk. Noah's jaw tightened. So what are you saying? That Lily needs to disappear? I'm saying we need to be strategic. If this goes to court, every detail of your life will be scrutinized. Your finances, your relationships, your parenting choices, and anything they can use against you, they will. Then what do we do? I asked. Rebecca looked between us. First, we file a response to the emergency custody motion. We argue that Emma's mother abandoned her and has no legal standing to make demands. Second, we document everything: school records, medical records, witness statements from teachers, neighbors, anyone who can testify to Noah's fitness as a parent. And third, Noah asked, third, you prepare for a fight. Because if your father is behind this, he's not going to back down easily. She left an hour later with a stack of papers to file and a promise to be in touch within 48 hours. Noah stood at the window, watching her car pull away. I can't believe this is happening, he said. We'll get through it. What if we don't? What if I lose her? You won't. You don't know that, Lily. You can't promise that. He was right. I couldn't. But I could stand next to him while he fought, and that's exactly what I intended to do. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Noah spent the weekend preparing, going through every document Rebecca requested, rehearsing answers to questions she said they'd ask. I stayed with him, helping where I could, keeping Emma distracted when the conversations got too heavy. On Monday night, Noah put Emma to bed early and came downstairs looking like he'd aged 10 years. I need to tell you something, he said. I set down the case file I'd been reviewing. What? If this goes badly tomorrow, if the judge grants her mother any kind of custody, even temporary visitation, I need you to promise me something. Noah, please, just listen. I nodded. I need you to promise that you'll still be in Emma's life, even if I'm not around as much, even if things get messy. She trusts you, Lily, and if I can't be there to protect her, I need to know someone will. My throat tightened. You're going to be there. This isn't over. But if it is, it's not. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. Why are you so sure? Because I've watched you with her. I've seen the way she looks at you, and no court is going to ignore that. Your father can throw all the money he wants at this, but he can't fake what you and Emma have. Noah sat down beside me, shoulders slumping. I'm terrified. I know. I keep thinking about what happens if I lose her. If she ends up with people who don't know her, who don't care about her the way I do. That's not going to happen. You keep saying that because it's true. He looked at me, and I saw all the fear and doubt and exhaustion in his eyes. I don't know what I'd do without you, he said quietly. Good thing you don't have to find out. The courthouse was a massive granite building downtown, all marble floors and echoing hallways. Rebecca met us outside the courtroom, looking calm and professional. Remember what we talked about, she said to Noah. Answer the questions directly. Don't get defensive. Don't engage emotionally. Just state the facts. Got it. And Lily, she turned to me. You're here for moral support, but you can't be in the courtroom. Family only. I understand. Noah squeezed my hand. I'll see you after. I watched him walk into the courtroom with Rebecca, then found a bench in the hallway to wait. The minutes crawled by. I tried to distract myself with my phone, but I couldn't focus. Every time the courtroom door opened, I looked up, hoping for news. After what felt like hours, the door opened and Noah stepped out. I stood up immediately. What happened? The judge denied the emergency custody motion. Relief flooded through me. That's good, right? For now, but he granted Emma's mother supervised visitation, 2 hours every Saturday, supervised by a court-appointed monitor. My stomach sank. Can he do that? Apparently. The judge said Emma has a right to know her mother, even if the mother hasn't been present. He's giving her a chance to prove she's changed. That's insane. That's family court. Noah looked drained. The first visit is this Saturday. How are you going to tell Emma? I have no idea. That night, Noah sat Emma down on the couch and tried to explain. Remember the lady from school? He asked gently. Emma's face closed off immediately. I don't want to talk about her. I know, sweetheart. But the thing is, she wants to spend some time with you, just a little bit, and a judge said that's okay. I don't want to see her. I know, but it's just for a couple hours, and someone else will be there with you the whole time to make sure you're safe. Will you be there? Noah's face crumpled. No, honey, I can't be. Then I'm not going. Emma, I said no. She jumped off the couch and ran upstairs. Noah started to follow, but I stopped him. Let me try, I said. He nodded, looking defeated. I found Emma in her room, face down on her bed, crying into her pillow. I sat down beside her and put a hand on her back. I know you're scared, I said softly. I don't want to go. I know. Why is this happening? Because sometimes grown-ups make things complicated, and sometimes the rules don't make sense. She rolled over, looking at me with tear-streaked cheeks. What if she tries to take me away from Daddy? She can't. Your dad has something called custody, which means you live with him. This lady, your birth mom, she can visit you, but she can't take you away. The judge won't let that happen. How do you know? Because your dad loves you more than anything in the world, and no one is going to take you away from him. I promise. It was a promise I had no right to make, but I made it anyway. Because Emma needed to hear it, and because I needed to believe it was true. Saturday came too fast. The visitation was scheduled for 2 p.m. at a supervised facility across town. Noah drove Emma there, and I followed in my own car, knowing I couldn't go inside but unwilling to let them do this alone. We pulled into the parking lot of a nondescript office building with a sign that read, Family Connections Center. Emma hadn't said a word the entire drive. Noah unbuckled her seatbelt and helped her out of the car. I'll be right here when you're done, he said. 2 hours. That's it. And then we're going home. Emma nodded, clutching her stuffed rabbit. A woman came out to meet them, the court-appointed supervisor, I assumed. She had a kind face and a clipboard. Hi, Emma, she said gently. I'm Miss Rivera. I'm going to be with you the whole time, okay? If you need anything or want to leave, you just tell me. Emma looked at Noah. It's okay, he said, even though his voice was shaking. I'll be right here. I watched from my car as Emma walked inside, the supervisor's hand on her shoulder. Noah stood in the parking lot, staring at the building like he was trying to see through the walls. Then he walked over to my car and got in the passenger seat. We sat in silence. This is the hardest thing I've ever done, he said finally. I know. I just sent my daughter into a room with a woman who abandoned her, and I can't do anything to protect her. She's not alone. Ms. Rivera is with her. That's not the same. No, it's not. He leaned his head back against the seat, closing his eyes. I keep thinking about what my father said, that I'm destructive, that I make bad decisions, and maybe he's right. Maybe I should have just done what he wanted, stayed with the company, married someone he approved of, played by the rules. You'd be miserable, but Emma would be safe. She is safe, Noah. She's in there with a supervisor, and in 2 hours she's coming back to you. Nothing about that has changed. Everything has changed. He was right, but I didn't know how to fix it, so I just sat there with him, waiting. At exactly 4 p.m., the door opened. Emma walked out, looking tired but intact. Noah was out of the car before I could blink, pulling her into his arms. You okay? He asked. Yeah. What happened? What did she say? She asked a lot of questions, like what grade I'm in and what my favorite color is. And what did you say? I told her purple, and that I like unicorns, and that my best friend's name is Mia. Noah pulled back, studying her face. Was she nice to you? I guess. She cried a lot. She cried? Yeah, she kept saying she was sorry. I didn't really know what to say, so I just let her talk. Noah looked at the supervisor, who was standing nearby. Everything go okay? He asked. Miss Rivera nodded. Emma did great. She was very brave. Thank you. On the drive home, Emma was quiet again, staring out the window. You want to talk about it? Noah asked. Not really. That's okay, but if you do want to talk, I'm here. I know, Daddy. When we got back to the house, Emma went straight to her room to play. Noah and I stood in the kitchen, the weight of the day pressing down on both of us. One down, he said. God knows how many more to go. At least she's okay. For now. His phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his face went dark. What? I asked. Email from my father's lawyer. He wants to meet. About what? It doesn't say. Just that it's urgent and in my best interest to show up. You don't have to go. Yeah, I do, because if I don't, he'll find another way to make my life hell. The meeting was scheduled for Monday afternoon at Charles Bennett's office, a gleaming tower in the financial district that screamed power and money. I went with Noah, despite his protests. This isn't your fight, he said. Yes, it is. The second your father tried to use Emma as leverage, it became my fight too. We took the elevator to the 42nd floor, where a receptionist directed us to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Charles was already there, along with two lawyers I didn't recognize. "Noah," he said, standing, "thank you for coming. Let's skip the pleasantries. What do you want?" Charles gestured to the chairs. "Please, sit." We sat. One of the lawyers slid a folder across the table. "This is a settlement offer," Charles said. "If you agree to the terms outlined here, I'll personally ensure that the custody case is dropped. Emma's mother will disappear, permanently." Noah opened the folder and scanned the first page. His face went white. "You want me to come back to the company," he said. "Not just come back, take over, as CEO, with full control. And if I refuse? Then the custody battle continues, and I can't guarantee the outcome will be in your favor." I felt sick. "You're blackmailing your own son," I said. Charles looked at me like I was a particularly annoying insect. "I'm offering him an opportunity. There's a difference." "No, there's not." "Lily," Noah said quietly, "don't." "Why not? He's threatening to take Emma from you unless you give up your entire life. How is that not blackmail?" Charles smiled. "Because I'm also offering him something he wants. Security, stability, a future for his daughter that doesn't involve legal battles and financial uncertainty. Emma doesn't need money. She needs her father. And she'll have him, just in a role that actually utilizes his potential." Noah closed the folder and pushed it back across the table. "No," he said. Charles's smile faded. "Excuse me?" I said, "No, I'm not taking this deal." "Noah, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable. You're the one trying to use my daughter as leverage to get what you want, and I'm done playing your games." "This isn't a game. This is your life." "Exactly. My life. Not yours, and I'm choosing to live it on my terms." He stood up, and I followed. "If you walk out that door," Charles said, "I will make sure you lose everything." "Then I guess I'll lose everything." We left. In the elevator, Noah's hands were shaking. "Are you okay?" I asked. "No, but I will be." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to fight. For Emma, for the life I've built, for the right to make my own choices." The elevator doors opened, and we stepped out into the lobby. "And I'm going to win," Noah said, "because I have something he doesn't." "What's that?" He looked at me. "I have you." And in that moment, standing in the marble lobby of his father's building, I realized something. This wasn't just about Noah anymore. It wasn't just about Emma. It was about all of us. And I was ready to fight for it. The next few weeks were brutal. Charles made good on his threat. He filed motions. He hired investigators to dig into Noah's life. He even tried to get statements from Emma's teachers, suggesting that Noah was unstable. But we fought back. Rebecca Torres was relentless, filing counter motions, gathering evidence, building a case that showed Noah as exactly what he was, a devoted father who'd sacrificed everything for his daughter. I gave a statement to the court about my relationship with Noah and Emma, about the home they'd built, about the stability and love I'd witnessed. It wasn't much, but it was something. And slowly, we started to gain ground. The supervised visitations continued every Saturday, but Emma was handling them better. She still didn't like going, but she wasn't terrified anymore. And her mother, whose name I learned was Christine, seemed genuinely remorseful. Not that it excused 4 years of absence, but at least she wasn't trying to rip Emma away. Then, 3 weeks after the meeting with Charles, everything changed. Rebecca called Noah on a Thursday night. "I need you to come to my office tomorrow morning," she said, "and bring Lily." "What's going on?" "I'll explain when you get here. Just trust me." We showed up at 9 a.m., confused and nervous. Rebecca was waiting in her conference room with a man I didn't recognize. "This is David Chen," she said. "He's a forensic accountant, and he's found something very interesting about your father's business dealings." David opened his laptop and turned it toward us. Over the past 6 months, Charles Bennett has been moving large sums of money through shell companies. One of those companies has ties to Christine's family, specifically her uncle, who runs a law firm in California. Noah leaned forward. "He paid them." "Not just paid them. He's been funding the entire custody battle. Legal fees, investigator costs, everything. And he did it in a way that makes it look like Christine's family is acting independently." "Why does that matter?" I asked. Rebecca smiled. "Because it proves that this isn't about Emma's relationship with her mother. It's about Charles manipulating the system to control Noah. And once we present this evidence to the judge, the custody case falls apart. Noah looked stunned. How did you find this? Let's just say your father got sloppy. He didn't think anyone would look closely enough to connect the dots. So what happens now? Now we file a motion to dismiss based on fraud upon the court, and we let your father explain to a judge why he's been secretly funding a custody battle against his own son. 2 weeks later, we were back in court. Charles was there, looking older and smaller than I'd ever seen him. The judge reviewed the evidence, his expression growing darker with each page. Finally, he looked up. "Mr. Bennett," he said, "do you have anything to say for yourself?" Charles stood. "Your Honor, I was acting in what I believe to be my grandson's best interests, by manipulating the legal system, by deceiving this court. I never intended—" "Enough." The judge held up a hand. "The custody petition is dismissed. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order preventing Christine or any member of her family from contacting the minor child without Mr. Noah Bennett's explicit consent. As for you, Mr. Bennett, you should consider yourself fortunate that I'm not holding you in contempt." He banged his gavel. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Noah stood on the steps, breathing like he'd just run a marathon. "We won," he said. "Yeah, we did." He turned to me, and I saw tears streaming down his face. "Thank you," he said, "for everything. For believing in me. For standing by me. For fighting when I didn't think I had any fight left." I took his hand. "You would have done the same for me." In a heartbeat. We stood there for a moment, just holding each other. Then his phone rang. He looked at the screen and his expression changed. "It's my father. You don't have to answer." "Yeah, I do." He put the phone to his ear. "Hello?" I couldn't hear what Charles said, but I watched Noah's face. "No," Noah said quietly. "I'm not coming back. Not now. Not ever." A pause. "Because I finally realized something. You don't get to control my life anymore. You don't get to use Emma as leverage, and you don't get to decide what kind of man I'm supposed to be." Another pause. "I'm sorry you feel that way, but this is who I am. And if you can't accept that, then I guess we don't have anything else to say to each other." He hung up. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, I think I am." We walked to the car together, and for the first time in weeks I saw him smile. Really smile. "Let's go get Emma," he said, "and tell her she never has to go back to those visits again. She's going to be so happy." Yeah, she is. And as we drove across the city to pick up his daughter, I realized something. We'd survived. Not just the custody battle. Not just Charles's manipulation. We'd survived the doubt and the fear and the moments when it would have been easier to walk away. And we'd come out stronger on the other side. Together. Emma screamed when we told her. Not a scared scream, a happy one. The kind that makes your ears ring and your heart swell at the same time. "I don't have to go back?" she asked, bouncing on the couch. "Ever?" "Ever," Noah confirmed. She launched herself at him, nearly knocking him over. "This is the best day of my whole life." I stood in the doorway, watching them, and felt something settle deep in my chest. Relief. Joy. The bone-deep exhaustion that comes after a fight you weren't sure you'd win. Emma pulled back and looked at Noah with sudden seriousness. "Does this mean the bad grandpa can't hurt us anymore?" Noah's smile faltered. "He's not bad, sweetheart. He's just complicated, and he made some mistakes. Big mistakes. Yeah, big ones." "Are you still mad at him?" Noah thought about it. "I'm disappointed and hurt, but I'm not mad anymore. Being mad takes too much energy." Emma nodded like this made perfect sense. Then she turned to me. "Are you going to live with us now?" I froze. Noah's eyes went wide. "Emma? What? She's here all the time anyway, and she makes really good pancakes. Better than yours, Daddy." "Thanks for that," Noah said dryly. Emma looked between us, waiting for an answer. "I have my own apartment," I said carefully, "but I'm here a lot because I like spending time with you guys." "But wouldn't it be easier if you just lived here? Then you wouldn't have to drive back and forth all the time." "That's a conversation for grown-ups to have." "You are a grown-up." "I meant your dad and me. Without you listening." She grinned. "I'll go upstairs, but I think you should say yes." She ran off before either of us could respond. Noah and I stood there in awkward silence. Sorry about that, he said finally. She doesn't have much of a filter. It's fine. She's right, though. You're here a lot. Is that a problem? No. The opposite, actually. He took a breath. I know we've only been doing this for a few months, and I know everything's been crazy with the custody battle and my father. But I need you to know something. What? This isn't temporary for me. You're not just someone I'm dating to see how it goes. You're... He stopped, searching for words. You're it for me, Lily, and I know that's probably too much too soon, but I'm done pretending I feel less than I do. My heart was pounding. Noah, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. I'm not going anywhere, I said, but I think we should take things slow, for Emma's sake. She's been through enough upheaval. You're right, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have... Stop apologizing. I'm just saying, let's not rush. Let's build this the right way. He nodded. The right way. Yeah. But even as I said it, I wondered what the right way actually looked like. The next few weeks felt like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. The Weston deal closed successfully. Despite all the drama, despite Sandra's warnings and Harmon's threats, I'd pulled it off. My name was on the final documentation. My work had been critical to the success. Richard Harmon called me into his office the day after the deal went through. I braced myself for another lecture. Instead, he offered me a promotion. Senior associate, he said, effective immediately, 20% raise, your own team. I stared at him. Are you serious? You delivered results despite significant personal challenges. That's the kind of resilience we value here. What about Sandra? She was gunning for this position. Sandra talks a good game. You actually perform. He leaned back in his chair. I'll admit, I had my doubts about you, about your judgment, but you proved me wrong. Don't make me regret this. I won't. I left his office in a daze. Senior associate, my own team, everything I'd been working toward for years. I called Noah from the parking garage. I got promoted, I said when he answered. That's amazing. When? Just now. Harmon called me in and offered it on the spot. We need to celebrate. Dinner tonight? I'll cook. You'll burn down the kitchen. Then I'll order takeout and pretend I cooked. I laughed. Deal. That night, Emma made me a congratulations card covered in glitter and stickers. Noah ordered Thai food from the place we both loved. We ate on the living room floor because Emma insisted it was more fun than the table. Speech, Emma demanded, holding up her juice box like a champagne glass. I don't have a speech prepared, I said. Make one up. I looked at them. Noah grinning, Emma bouncing with excitement, and felt something tighten in my throat. I just want to say, I started, that a few months ago, I thought success meant climbing the ladder at work, making partners someday, having a corner office and a business card that impressed people. But being here with you two, this feels like success too, maybe more than the promotion. Emma wrinkled her nose. That's a boring speech. Emma, Noah warned. What? It is. She should have talked about how awesome she is and how everyone at her work is jealous. I burst out laughing. You're right, that would have been better. We spent the rest of the evening playing board games that Emma made up rules for as we went along. By the time she went to bed, I was exhausted and happy in a way I hadn't been in years. Noah walked me to my car around 10. You could stay, he said. The guest room is always made up. I know, but I have an early meeting tomorrow. Need to go home and prep. Right, senior associate now, big responsibilities. Don't make fun. I'm not. I'm proud of you. He kissed me goodnight, and I drove home feeling like maybe, finally, things were falling into place. But life has a way of testing you right when you think you've figured it out. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Rebecca Torres. I wanted to give you a heads up, she said. Christine reached out to Noah. She wants to see Emma. My stomach dropped. I thought the court said she can't contact Emma without Noah's consent, but she can reach out to Noah and ask, and legally, he has to consider it. He's not going to say yes. Actually, he already did. I felt like I'd been punched. What? He agreed to one supervised visit, next Saturday. He thought you should know. I hung up and immediately called Noah. Why didn't you tell me? I asked the second he answered. I was going to. Tonight. You just what? Decided to handle this on your own? It's not like that. Then what is it like? Silence. I need to do this for Emma, he said finally. Christine is her mother, and whether I like it or not, Emma deserves the chance to have some kind of relationship with her, if she wants one. What about what you want? What I want doesn't matter. This isn't about me. Yes, it is. It's about all of us. We're supposed to be a team, Noah. You can't just make decisions like this without talking to me first. I'm talking to you now. After you already decided. That's not the same thing. He sighed. You're right. I should have told you before I agreed. I'm sorry. I don't want you to be sorry. I want you to let me in. I am letting you in. No, you're not. You're still treating me like someone on the outside, like this is your life and I'm just visiting. That's not fair, isn't it? You make decisions about Emma without consulting me. You shut down when things get hard instead of talking to me. And I'm supposed to just… what? Wait around until you're ready to actually let me be part of this? Lily, I love you, Noah, but I can't keep doing this if you won't let me all the way in. The words hung in the air. I hadn't meant to say them, hadn't planned to, but they were out now, and I couldn't take them back. You love me? Noah's voice was soft. Yes, I love you. And I love Emma, and I want this to work, but it can't work if you keep holding me at arm's length. I'm not trying to, then prove it. Start including me in the big decisions. Start trusting that I'm here for the long haul, because I am. But I need you to meet me halfway. He was quiet for a long moment. Okay, he said finally. Okay? You're right, about all of it. And I'm sorry. I'm still figuring out how to do this, how to be in a relationship where I'm not the only one making decisions. But I want to learn. With you. I felt some of the tension leave my shoulders. Thank you. And for the record, I love you too. I have for a while. I was just too scared to say it. Scared of what? Of ruining this. Of saying the wrong thing and making you realize you deserve better. I don't want better. I want you. Messy, complicated, stubborn you. He laughed. That's not the romantic declaration I was hoping for. It's honest, and that's better than romantic. Saturday came, and I went with Noah and Emma to the supervised visit. This time, I didn't wait in the car. I went inside, sat in the waiting area, and made sure Emma knew I was there if she needed me. Christine looked different than I'd imagined. Younger, sadder, like someone who'd made mistakes she couldn't undo and was still trying to figure out how to live with them. Emma was polite but distant. She answered questions when Christine asked them, but she didn't volunteer anything, didn't smile, didn't relax. After an hour, she asked to leave. Noah picked her up immediately, and we walked out together. How was it? He asked once we were in the car. Weird, Emma said. She kept crying and saying she was sorry. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. You don't have to do anything, sweetheart. You just have to be honest about how you feel. I don't really feel anything. Is that bad? No, it's not bad. It's just honest. Emma nodded and went back to looking out the window. Later that night, after Emma was in bed, Noah and I sat on the back porch with glasses of wine we weren't really drinking. She doesn't want to see Christine again, Noah said. She told me before bed, said it doesn't feel right. What did you say? I told her she doesn't have to, that I'll tell Christine we're done with visits. How do you think Christine will take it? I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Emma's feelings are the only ones that count. I reached for his hand. You're a good dad. I'm trying. That's all anyone can do. We sat in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of the neighborhood settling in for the night. I've been thinking, Noah said after a while. About what you said about letting you in, and I realized something. What's that? I've spent so much of my life protecting myself, from my father's expectations, from my ex-wife's abandonment, from the possibility of getting hurt again, that I forgot how to let people in. But you're right. If we're going to do this, I need to stop treating you like you're temporary. I'm not going anywhere. I know. And I need to start acting like I know that. He stood up and pulled me to my feet. What are you doing? I asked. Something I should have done weeks ago. He led me inside, up the stairs, past Emma's room to his bedroom. Noah, not like that, he said quickly. Just Wait here. He disappeared into the closet and came back with a small box. My heart started pounding. This isn't a ring, he said, opening it, because I know you said we should take things slow, and I'm respecting that. But it is a key to this house, because I want you to know that this is your home too, whenever you want it to be. I looked at the key, then at him. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. I took the key, and he pulled me into his arms. I love you, he said into my hair. I love you too. We stood there for a long time, just holding each other. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt like we were exactly where we were supposed to be. The months that followed weren't perfect. We had arguments, disagreements about parenting decisions, about how much time I should spend at the house, about whether Emma was ready for me to be more than just Daddy's girlfriend. But we worked through them. We talked instead of shutting down. We compromised instead of digging in our heels. We chose each other over and over again, even when it would have been easier to walk away. I started spending more nights at Noah's house, then most nights. Then I gave up my apartment entirely and moved in. Emma was thrilled. She helped me unpack, insisted I take the dresser by the window because it had better light, and immediately started planning how we'd rearrange the living room to fit my bookshelf. This is perfect, she said, flopping onto the couch after we'd finished. Now we're a real family. Noah and I exchanged glances. We were always a real family, he said gently. This just makes it official. Does that mean you're going to get married? I choked on my water. Emma, Noah said, that's not... What? I'm just asking. All my friends' parents are married. Not all of them, I said. Mia's parents aren't married, remember? Yeah, but they're engaged, so they're going to be. Okay, time for bed, Noah said, standing up. But it's only 8, and you have school tomorrow. Come on. Emma groaned but went upstairs. Noah came back down 15 minutes later looking sheepish. Sorry about that, he said. It's fine. She's curious. She's nosy. I laughed. That too. He sat beside me close enough that our shoulders touched. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I have thought about it. Marriage. Not right now, but someday. Yeah? Yeah, is that something you'd want, eventually? I thought about it. About waking up in this house every morning, about the life we were building, about Emma and Noah and the family we'd become. Yeah, I said. Someday. He kissed me, soft and slow. Good, he said, because I'm not letting you go. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. 6 months later, the Weston deal fallout finally hit the news. Someone leaked documents showing Charles Bennett's involvement in the custody case, his manipulation, his bribes, his willingness to use his own granddaughter as leverage. The story went viral. Bennett Capital Group's stock tanked. Investors pulled out. The board called for Charles to step down. Noah's phone rang constantly with reporters asking for statements. He ignored every single call. Aren't you going to say anything? I asked. What's there to say? The truth is already out there. Adding my voice to it doesn't change anything. It might give you closure. I don't need closure. I need to move on. But a week later, Charles showed up at the house. Noah and I were in the kitchen making dinner when the doorbell rang. Emma ran to answer it before we could stop her. It's the bad grandpa, she yelled. Noah's face went white. I put a hand on his arm. You want me to tell him to leave? No, I'll handle it. He walked to the door. I stayed in the kitchen, close enough to hear but far enough to give them space. What are you doing here? Noah asked. I wanted to see you, Charles said. His voice sounded older, tired. And Emma, if that's allowed. It's not. You have a restraining order. I know, I'll leave. I needed to say something first. Silence. I'm sorry, Charles said, for everything. For trying to control your life, for using Emma. For thinking I knew better than you what you needed. I was wrong, and I've lost everything because of it. You didn't lose everything. You still have the company. I resigned yesterday. The board accepted it this morning. I heard Noah's sharp intake of breath. Why would you do that? Because you were right. I spent so much time building a legacy that I forgot what actually mattered, and now I've lost my son, my granddaughter, everything that made any of it worthwhile. You didn't lose me, Noah said quietly. You pushed me away. There's a difference. Can I fix it? I don't know, maybe, but it's going to take time, and you can't just show up here expecting forgiveness. I understand. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and that I'm trying to do better. Then prove it, not with words, with actions. How? By respecting my boundaries, by accepting that I'm not coming back to the company, by treating Lily like someone who matters to me instead of someone you can threaten. I can do that. We'll see. Charles left without arguing. Noah came back into the kitchen, looking drained. You okay? I asked. I don't know. Ask me tomorrow. Emma appeared in the doorway. Is the bad grandpa still bad? He's trying to be better, Noah said. Whether he actually gets there is a different question. Can I still call him the bad grandpa? Probably not in front of him. Fine, I'll call him Old Charles instead. Noah and I both laughed. Go wash up for dinner, he said. She ran off. Noah pulled me into his arms. Thank you for being here. Always. A year later, almost to the day from when I'd first hired Noah to be my fake boyfriend, he proposed. It wasn't elaborate or fancy. We were in the backyard watching Emma play on the swing set he'd installed last spring. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Hey, he said suddenly. Hey yourself. I have something for you. He pulled a small box from his pocket. My heart stopped. I know we said someday, he said, and I know this might be too soon, but I woke up this morning and realized that I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want someday. I want now. I want forever. I want you. He opened the box. The ring was simple, beautiful, perfect. Lily Carter, will you marry me? Emma stopped swinging and ran over. Say yes, she shouted. Say yes, say yes, say yes. I looked at Noah, tears streaming down my face. Yes, I said. Yes, I'll marry you. Emma screamed and jumped up and down. Noah slid the ring onto my finger and kissed me. And in that moment, surrounded by the two people I loved most in the world, I realized something. Life doesn't always turn out the way you plan. Sometimes it turns out better. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. Emma was the flower girl and took her job very seriously, practicing her walk for weeks beforehand. Charles came. He and Noah were still working on their relationship, still navigating the damage that had been done. But he was trying, and that was enough for now. My parents flew in from across the country. My mother cried through the entire ceremony. My father gave a speech at the reception about how he'd always known I'd find someone who deserved me. Daniel showed up uninvited but left when Sandra told him to get lost. Apparently she'd developed a backbone since I'd gotten promoted above her. The best part of the day was watching Emma dance with Noah, her feet on top of his, both of them laughing. She's happy, I said to Rebecca, who'd become a friend in the months since the custody battle ended. Of course she is. She has two parents who love her. That's all any kid needs. We're not perfect. No one is. But you show up and you try. That's what matters. Later that night, after the guests had left and Emma had fallen asleep in the car on the way home, Noah and I stood in our bedroom now officially, and just looked at each other. We did it, he said. We did. I'm terrified I'm going to mess this up. You won't. How do you know? Because you care too much to mess it up. And because even when things get hard, you don't run. You stay. You fight. You choose us. He pulled me close. I'll always choose us. Good. Because I'm not going anywhere. We stood there in the quiet, holding each other, and I thought about the journey that had brought us here. I'd hired a stranger to make my ex-boyfriend jealous, to prove I'd moved on, to salvage my dignity at a corporate gala. I'd expected one night, one performance, one easy solution to a complicated problem. Instead, I got a life I didn't know I was looking for. I got Emma's laugh and Noah's steady presence and a home that felt like it had always been mine. I got late-night conversations and early morning coffee and the kind of love that doesn't come easy but is worth every single fight to keep. I learned that sometimes the best things in life are the ones you don't plan for. That taking a risk on a stranger can lead to finding yourself. That family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who choose to stay when leaving would be easier. And I learned that love, real love, isn't about perfection. It's about showing up. It's about choosing each other, even when things are messy. It's about building something together, brick by brick, mistake by mistake, until you look up one day and realize you've created something worth protecting. Noah and I didn't have a fairy tale romance. We had something better. We had reality, complicated, imperfect, beautiful reality. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Years from now, when Emma asks how Noah and I met, I'll tell her the truth. I'll tell her about the gala and the fake boyfriend and the custody battle that almost destroyed us. I'll tell her about her grandfather's mistakes and her father's courage and the choice I made to stay when leaving would have been safer. And I'll tell her that sometimes the best love stories are the ones that start with desperation and end with hope. That sometimes hiring a stranger off the internet to be your fake boyfriend for one night leads to finding the person you want to spend your life with. That sometimes the mess is the point, because life isn't about avoiding the hard things. It's about finding someone worth facing them with. And I found mine. In a man who showed up when I needed him most, who fought for his daughter when the world tried to take her away, who chose love over legacy and authenticity over approval. Noah Bennett wasn't perfect, but he was perfect for me. And that's all that ever mattered. The end.